Hello. And today, of course, I have another message to share from the Masters, from Master Jeshua. Well, how the personification of love expresses itself and shares and channels itself through me. So I like to personify that message from Jeshua based on many, many years of being visited in the past in the 90s, and the guidance, the incredible guidance that I received from that relationship. So when I say that these are messages from the Masters and from the Master Jeshua, ultimately it's actually just a message that is received from the spirit of love, the consciousness of love. So the identification really isn't as relevant as what the message is. So the next message I got was that there is nothing that you can experience that everyone else doesn't experience. Like we all experience the same thing, every one of us. The entire makeup, genetic, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, are all the same and being experienced in just so many multitudes, millions and billions of ways. But nonetheless, they are all the same. Everything is a pathway home, and the experience of grief, of despair, of anger, of unworthiness, of self-loathing, of pain, all suffering, like every one of us are the same. My experience and your experience and someone else's experience is all the same. They are all just they're a given. They are that is what's given to us as our moment, our gift of awakening. Now we may not say that, we might not like to think that those experiences of pain, despair, and suffering are gifts, but they really are. They are what gives us the opportunity as humans to say, to really question, like, who am I? Like, this life isn't meant to be like this. I came here as this beautiful little innocent child, playful, and everything's just playful and joyful and full of love and happiness, and a little child's on this earth, and it's just like, wow, it's a playground. But then, of course, it gets really serious. It gets really serious, and it gets really serious based on our makeup: genetic, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual makeup. So if we return our consciousness back to the innocence of a child, and then become playful again upon this earth, then we're moving into the true nature, with the reality of why we're here. So we get given the gift as at the first moment we're born. We are the gift upon the earth, and of course we are. So we're in alignment one more time. We're born on this earth as a pure, infinite, beautiful, radiant being, and we start splitting off and thinking and becoming something else for someone else, somewhere else, something else. But they're all the same. Everything's been experienced in different ways, nonetheless, all the same. Your story of separation starts the same, plays out in a myriad of ways, just like everyone else's, and all ends the same. The only difference is what occurs in the middle. So if you were born pure and you return, so to speak, to the same place of purity that you came from, then why is it that we don't see that everything else in the middle also is purity? Because we just don't, right? So prior to birth, where were we? Well, I don't know. Well, some of us know. There was no problems there. There was just no problems, no suffering. We're born onto the earth. We're born onto the earth. That soul comes into the body, and the body experiences the suffering. The body experiences the separation. It is where we have forgotten. Well, we don't forget when we're little, because like you can't forget when you're this little pure little being. It's got a blank slate, right? So there's nothing to forget. That's why newborn babies are just this beautiful, pure, innocent presence. And then it's the conditioning that takes us away from the purity. And then when the body dies, that same soul, that last breath that is taken, it's just like the soul just travels back on that bridge, back into that same place before we came here. So the purity before and the purity at the end of the physical life is the same. So let's find the purity now, here in this life. And we've forgotten because we became identified with the body and took on the patterns, the beliefs, the vibrations of the family, society, culture, and even more so now by the World Wide Web, social media. This is so funny. I'm reading this off automatic writing that came through from Jeshua. And when I wrote this, it came through as the worldwide, and now we're being so totally, shattered and distracted and seduced by worldwide social media. And when I typed this up, I put in www.socialmedia.com, and I don't know why. Well, of course, funny, this is incredible. It came up as www.socialmedia.ego. Freaked me out. .ego. So that was a message. That was a message in that. Anyway, so I too have split and moved back into that world and got consumed, seduced, and consumed by that world. And of course, I realised too that to really truly live a life of freedom and liberation and so much joy, so much gratitude and compassion is like to really live in that place. It's important that we continue to really remember to daily to that essence of the true nature of our being. So what would happen if everyone stopped and turned their attention inward to listen to this voice? So this is the voice. This is a voice that comes to me, that channels to me, that I step back, move out of the way. There's no me. It's sort of like the me becomes just it's like you're sitting back. It's like I sit back in a chair and just let this information come through. So it's like, what if everyone would do that? What if everyone would turn their attention inward and listen to this voice, this divinity, the voice of the soul, the voice of consciousness? Could you imagine how much joy people would experience realizing that just like me, that you can be controlled. You don't have to be controlled by the mind. The mind is a machine, and all of the products of destruction this machine is producing at a factory line speed. Like, this is the ego, this is the mind, these are the thoughts. It's a product of destruction. It's a machine that's producing destructive objects of thoughts. The product of the mind machine of thoughts and beliefs is like manufacturing like factory objects. Like, hey guys, I don't know. This is just how spirit comes through and explains this to me. So just like all things manufactured and created, the effects of consumerism keep our society numb and obsessed in finding pleasure from the next modern convenience. Find happiness out there, and in the form of this object that's created by the thought and the mind, the thought and the belief that I need to have this object outside of myself so I can consume myself in that, because that's where I'm going to get my source of happiness. But that's just a product of the mind, the product of the ego. And we get saturated then in movies and toys and music and technology. And we just like, then we're out of alignment. One more time, out of alignment. So what if everyone woke up and realized that they are like animals being fed through a cage, waiting, begging for the next meal to arrive? That's what it's like. That's how insatiable this driving force of ego and obsessive seduction out of alignment with our divinity. That's how obsessive this drive is. All the stuff in the middle is the cause of man's suffering from birth. So it's all this stuff. That's it. That's where the suffering is. We've come from a pure mind, pure being, into in alignment with this pure mind. I am the extension, the soul. I breathe in. The breath is the carriage of my soul. I'm this gorgeous, little cute, little pure little being. Then I get a name. Then I conform to all of myself as a name and a gender and my place in the family, and off I go. I split, and before you know it, I'm on this path of separation. So all the stuff in the middle, if you're all the stuff in the middle from here, or we can go that way, from here to the end of your life, it's like it's all that stuff in the middle. So if we bring alignment from our birth, and then we realize that instead of holding on to this past stuff that I'm identified with, right? Identifying with the past, or then identifying with the future, identifying with this or identifying with this, instead of identifying with this. So if we identify with this, the purity of the soul, the newborn baby, the newborn soul upon the earth, and then we stay identified with this and we do not move, we visit here every now and then, but we always return. We remember this is our true nature. And then when we leave this body, we are staying fully in tune and aligned and anchored in this. Then, of course, our passing will be aligned and anchored in the same beautiful divinity, the purity that was at our birth. In awakening, the desire to consume more stuff lessens and lessens. In awakening, to consume more stuff becomes less and less. Isn't that cool? You don't have to consume. You don't follow and chase after that. So in awakening, desire to consume becomes less and less. The mind and the body's need of stuff starts to fall away, allowing the vessel, the body, to become emptier and emptier, where there's more space, so that more light, more breath can flow through you unimpeded. And where the gift of giving love, just for the sake of giving, just for the sake of extending that gift to another, is enough to be so full of so much joy, because your cup can runneth over. You can be an open vessel. You're not. It's not being depleted. It's not being depleted. It's staying in alignment. So everything that causes you discomfort is your friend, not your enemy. As it shifts you to the edge of the mind through seeking to find the answers and the solutions, where it finally, through overwhelm and exhaustion, jumps off the edge and falls into surrender. And you all, no doubt, probably know that experience. If you are experiencing exhaustion and overwhelm, and you feel like you just want to fall into a place of surrender because it's all getting too much, then that's why these videos are being now presented, and through sources like this. When you realize that nothing of the world and the mind can truly fix your obsessiveness, your discomfort, or your plea for relief, until you give up the story and the fixation, will you be free? The issues, all of these things, are your ally. They are your friend. They are, when you realize that you've got so many friends, you've got so many allies, you've actually had so many problems, but they are an opportunity for you to return home to return to remember the realization they are here to assist you. You'll never be lonely because there's always going to be allies and friends that are going to show up just to gently say, are you in alignment? You know, or are you going to move over, you want to split over here, and they're going to just be a reminder to bring your attention back into alignment with yourself as a primordial, beautiful, radiant being. Thank you. See you soon.